segue into the wealth discussion. Another long story of how I got involved with an organization called the Palm House. Steve Carter, shout out to Steve. Halfway house. I may be butchering the description of what the Palm House is, but this is what I understand it to be. The Palm House is a halfway house, and basically, if you get arrested and are sentenced or about to be sentenced to go to prison, and your crime was drug related, you have a chance to choose to go to the Palm House instead and go through a drug rehab program. And they have, I mean, it's a strict rules about coming and going, and so it's a not an easy thing to go through, but it's done a lot of good. Well, long story how I ended up there, but I had a friend who was teaching a class to these guys, and she had told them about me, and she was in that financial class, wealth building class, and she was sharing some of the stuff, and she asked me if I would come speak. Now I'm thinking I'm going to go speak for half an hour or 15 minutes or something. We didn't communicate well, and so I was like, sure, I'll go. And so I pull up, and it's a scary looking place, right? And it's at night, and I'm looking out front, and there's guys out there that look like from the Hell's Angels, smoking cigarettes, tattoos, and leather, and I'm looking like Mr. Rogers, right? And I'm praying. I'm a little nervous. I'm like, God, am I in the right place? I'm a little afraid. I ain't gonna lie. All right, here we go. So I get out of my car, and I'm walking across, and they're looking at me like, this guy's not from around here. And so
the accountant.
Yeah. And I walk up, and I'm like, hey guys, hey guys, I'm looking for so and so, and so they tell me where to go. So I go in, and I said, hey, good to see you, whatever. And she had given me the whole class, and I wasn't prepared for that, which I don't necessarily need to be, because I'm a talker. And so I was like, oh, I got the whole class, okay. So I come in, and then eventually these guys start rolling in. 20-year-olds all the way up to 60-year-olds, and all of them fresh out of prison, right? And so I started speaking to them, and it was just an amazing moment in that night, and it kind of got me like, I want to do this again. And so I sat down with Steve, and I said, hey, I'd like to do a financial services class for your guys. And he's like, and I really, these guys are, so a lot of the classes they had were mandated. This one would have been voluntary. He's like, nobody's going to show up for this. Standing room only. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so there's a lot of stories here, but I'm going to tell one in particular that you said something that made me think. So
I hope it's the one I'm thinking.
There's a lot. So I'm in this room, and everybody starts coming in, and I had a few classes, and this guy came in who was new, and he was very young. He looked like he was 15, and it really moved me because my son, I think, was 15 or 16 at the time, and I was like, gosh, my son, he looks like my son, he shouldn't be here. And so whenever they go into a new environment or new class, I guess, I think one of the rules is they have to tell their story. Like, it's part of the therapy. And so he had to stand up and tell his story. And so I think he was 20, 21 at the time. And I'm going to get some of the details wrong, but in general, this was his story. When he was, 10 or 11, both of his parents were killed. And so he had to go live with his grandparents. And his grandfather was an alcoholic and used to beat him. And one night he came home when he was 18, and his grandfather was drunk, and they got in a big nasty fight, and he fought back, and they got into a fist fight. And his grandfather grabs a gun, shoots him 8 times. Twice in the chest, twice in the stomach, twice in the arm, twice in the leg maybe, I don't know. Just riddles him with bullets. And somehow he survives. Well, when he gets out of the hospital, however long that took, he can't go back with his grandparents. So he's on the street. And so he lands in my class. And so as I was teaching these principles of wealth and wealth management, he comes up to me after. I mean, he's head to toe black. He's got like a German cross, or not a swastika, but like the honor cross or something. And rings. I mean, nose rings and tattoos. I mean, he's not looking very professional, right? So he comes up to me afterwards, and every other word's the F-bomb. And he says, introduces himself, and he says, "Look, I got a lot of problems, but one thing I don't have, one thing that's not a problem for me is I'll work harder than anybody. You tell me what to do, I'll do it." And so this kid saw this as an opportunity to change the direction of his life. And all right, I can work with this. And so I started, like he came up to me after every class asking questions. He's taking notes. So I started really giving him the attention that he was asking for, right? He's coming after me. I'm going to give him more time. So I got permission from the executive director to take him out to lunch from time to time. And so I bought him this leather-bound notebook and a nice pen. And I said, "This is your notebook. You're going to take notes as we get together. We're going to talk you through this stuff." So I started teaching him about what it meant to have a career versus a job. Stuff that my dad taught me. Stuff that we often take for granted. Stuff that he never heard. And so, I was teaching him stuff like making his boss look good, which he didn't like. He didn't like his boss. I don't want to make him look good, right? And so, one of the things he learned about himself during this is he liked to weld. And so there are some strings that the Palm House can pull to open doors for those guys. So he gets a job with a company making some sort of equipment, and he's learning to weld, and he's coming back, and I'm sort of mentoring him on that career, and it starts to grow. And after a couple of years, he's making $75,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling him how to manage his money. He's living in the Palm House, which is not expensive. So he's got money to put aside. And so I started talking to him about eventually when he gets out of the Palm House, he could buy a house. And this is one of the funny ones. I was talking to him, you could buy a house, buy like a 3-bedroom house that you live in, and you get 2 roommates, and they pay you rent. I explained to him about mortgages and stuff like that. And so he's like, wait a minute. So I go to the bank, and I get a loan to go buy a house, and I have a mortgage payment. I said, yep. And he said, then I get 2 people, roommates, to rent for me, and they pay me enough money to pay off the mortgage payment. And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, who owns the house? And I said, you do. And he's like, is that legal?
Wow.
And so once he graduated the program, I've kind of lost touch with him over the years, but he was well on his way, and met his girlfriend, went to her graduation with him, and built a great relationship. I text him from time to time, but a lot of times just people need a lot of just that little bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's all they need. And it can change the trajectory of somebody's life. And I think one of the things I try to encourage the business owners that I know, and I guess it doesn't have to be just business owners, but people who have skills, people who have this knowledge, whether your parents taught it to you or you learned it somewhere else, take an interest in somebody else, particularly if they're younger, and open yourself up. And what I do is I make it a point that if somebody requests my time, I give it to them. It's hard because a lot of people eventually will make that request. But if they request my time, I'll give it to them. If they request more of my time, I make it harder for them to get my time. So they've got to prove themselves. But like this guy, I don't want to say his name, like this guy, if he's willing to do the work, I'm willing to give him that knowledge, right? And so a lot of people want the knowledge, they just don't want to do the work. Yeah. So you've got to decipher that because you only have limited time. So if you are someone who maybe you can give money, but if you have knowledge, give that knowledge, it can change people's lives.
Yeah.
So wealth.
Yeah. So on that,
Maybe this will
on
be a
that line,
four part podcast.
well, that is a good segue because you do, yes, you learn, but you can only learn so much from one person. You do have to read yourself. So you've really helped us, like, these are good books to read. So just kind of saturating yourself with that kind of mindset and that kind of talking. So talking with someone like you is great. And then what are some books that you recommend for building wealth?
So, you said saturate. I think of what am I marinating my mind in?
Yeah.
So, a lot of times when I'm driving down the road, I've got something playing that even if I'm not consciously focused on what it is I'm hearing, I'm just marinating my mind in that kind of stuff. So whether it's sometimes, oftentimes spiritual book, but oftentimes it's wealth building, even maybe something specific to my career that I can sharpen my skills, a book or podcast. So Jasprit Singh.
Sing, yeah.
I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Sometimes he gets a little political, which is a turnoff for me. But mostly, when he talks about investing in, he's very practical and he's good. He's on YouTube. You look him up. I listen to it anytime something new comes from him. I listen to him.
Minority Mindset is the name of that.
Minority Mindset. Yeah. That's right.
Thank you.
I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey, even though there's a lot of things I don't agree. I still listen. And that's the other thing too. Listen to things that you don't necessarily agree with, and maybe one day there's a breakthrough that you're thinking about something that they help you break through. Dave Ramsey, I listen to a lot of Robert Kiyosaki. Any book that he has, I've listened to it. Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's another one, Tax Free Wealth.
Yeah, I like that one.
Will Wright, I think is his name. Tom Wheelwright, who's Robert Kiyosaki's tax guy. That's a dry book, but I think if you really want to understand taxes, man, there's some good ones there. There's a lot of business books. One that most people probably haven't heard of that is a really good business book is Making Money is Killing Your Business. Sounds like a crazy title. The premise of it is you making money is what's killing your business. Your business needs to be able to make money without you.
Okay.
And that for small business owners, they often don't think about that. So he measures the maturity of a business by how many days a small business owner can be disengaged and it still keep going.
Yeah.
Can it last a day? Can it last a week? Can it last a month? Can it last 6 months? Can it last a year?
Going from owner operator to actually business owner.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that book is really good about how resetting your thinking that way. And I really do think every small business owner needs to reset their thinking that way. One of the businesses that I own is First Choice Business Brokers of Metro Atlanta. So we help people buy and sell businesses. And so I spend my days valuing businesses. And one of the biggest detractors from the value of the business, and maybe even from all the value of the business, is if the business is 100% dependent on the owner. Depending on how dependent it is, it could take all the value out.
Yeah.
Like you might not be able to sell your business if your business is built that way.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to come in, and if you leave,
Do you come with the business?
Yeah.
And that was one of the downfalls for us. I mean, I can remember you preaching it and preaching it, and it was just like,
Well, it's hard to break free though.
but just trying to take yourself out.
Yeah.
And give it to someone else. But
hard.
that was one of the hardest things to where it's just like, even though the quality may drop some, you've got to do it.
Well, in my experience, the quality improved. So I still own the IT company, right? So here's the logic that I've come to wrestle with about that, because it kind of hurt my feelings when I got out of the business. It got better. So, you start off, if you do a startup, and if anybody's done a startup, hats off. A wise man once said to me, anybody who can go from nothing to something, I don't care what that something is, that takes a unique person. So, yes. and I know what that feels like. So, hats off to anybody who's gone from nothing to something. So, when you're that startup phase, you're everything, right? You're the accountant, you're the marketing, you're the operations, you're everything, right? And then you've got to learn to hire those people, and then you've got to learn to become a manager. And then you've got to move in that direction, right? And so if you can learn how to move up that ladder, and when you are doing everything yourself, as gifted as you are, and you are gifted because people are paying you money, so that proves that you're doing something right. You're spread so thin, you can't be your best self.
Yes.
So when you hire people and give them responsibility in the company, they can focus on that one task or that one element of the business where you couldn't. And so they can give everything they are to it. So they should be better than you because you're giving a part of you, right? And that's what I experienced in the IT company is as I started getting, first of all, you got to get good people. You got to have good processes, right? But once you start delegating that to the right people, the quality improves.
And I think the less you micromanage, it allows people to use their own imagination.
That's right.
And that's very fulfilling when you're putting effort into it and you're using your own imagination. I think I'm not sure what company, one of the Facebook or something, they give people a certain amount of time each week just to brainstorm.
Yeah.
And to imagine and they get paid for it.
So to that point, I'm entering the world of AI. Most people like me have experienced AI on, ChatGPT or some sort of simple. There's another layer of that I'm learning, which is like actually having a full-blown agent. And I am a novice, so I'm not an expert on this, but I have an agent that has a name and knows all about me, knows all about my businesses and all that. And so I interact, and it's amazing. It's amazing, the suggestions. But one of the things that my consultant had taught me in working with my AI bot or agent is when, I had an executive dashboard, an executive scorecard, right? And I had all these systems and processes and stuff. So I said, log in and get all this stuff. This is how I do it. And then it compiles all this stuff and sees what I'm doing. And, I want you to tweak this, tweak that. And now we're done. This is what I got. And once we're done, follow it with one more question. Is there a better way to do this? And I have been blown away with this robot looking at how I've thought about it, how I put it together, understanding what I'm trying to do, has come back and said, well, you might want to consider this. You might want to consider this. You might want to consider this. And out of the 10 or 15 ideas, maybe 2 or 3 I hadn't thought of. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. Mm-hmm. I really how do you do that? And add that to it. And so at our entrepreneurship meeting on Friday, I was sharing with the group, out of all the years in business, why haven't I asked that question of my employees? Why in the world have I not? Why am I asking that question of this robot? And I'm getting this. What if I ask that question of, so here's what we're trying to do. They know.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of a better way to do this?
Yes.
Do you have any? Yep. Yeah. Do you have any ideas? And it turns their minds on, gives them ownership. And I'm so just kicking myself. How much have I missed out on the power of the talent of the teams that I've had because I haven't asked that one little question. Yeah. So I will be asking that question a lot of people from now on.
Yes.
Okay, so one more topic about wealth building. So you taught us about ETFs, and we really like that aspect. We got into a little bit of real estate, so we really like that too. What do you, and again, I know you're not giving advice, but what do you prefer? So you've got some real estate. Tell us a little bit about ETFs. Can you explain what ETF is in very basic terms?
So let me back up and sort of give a visual of the way I think about wealth building, and then I'll jump into ETFs and that kind of thing. Most of this comes from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've kind of tweaked it to be my version of it, but it's pretty much Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So the way that I would say it is, the first step is to get a job, right? So you got to go get a job. In other words, you need something that's going to pay your bills, right? So your monthly nut, and I keep saying I'm going to look that up. Maybe I have. I just forgotten. I don't know why they call it that, but where that term comes from. The monthly nut, personally, what does it cost for you to live, to pay your bills every month? Is it $5,000 a month? Is it $15,000? Whatever that is. know that. Most people don't, right? Know what that number is and then work to get a surplus. So step one, you got to get a job to pay your bills. Yeah. And I say that because I used to not say that, but when I got into the Palm House, that was step one.
Yeah.
Guys, we got to go get a job. And one of the things that I did was I had a whiteboard and I wrote out the typical expenses.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down all the things that you have to pay for. And I said, all right, how much is rent? What do you think? And they would throw out a number. I said, look it up. What's rent in this town? And we put it out there. And then you see, gosh, this is what it costs usually in general. How much is a cell phone? How much is Netflix or whatever? So most people don't know that. Then you go get a job that can pay that and just break even. That's your first step, right? Get a job. Then the second is to get that surplus, whether that means cutting your expenses or whether that means, working extra jobs or growing in your job and creating more value so you get paid more, right? Whatever, you need a surplus. None of this works until you get all that done.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even help you. Then you got to have the discipline to not spend that surplus. Oh, man, I can get extra this or an extra that. I can, what is Jasper seen? I can get extra guac at the. That's what he said.
Extra guac.
The millionaire who drives an old Honda.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to have discipline, which to me, that's the word I think of when I think of Dave Ramsey. That's what he teaches.
Yeah. Have
the discipline to not just spend your money. So what I teach is take that extra and put it aside. It could be a savings account, which would make Robert Kiyosaki cringe for me saying that out loud. If you're saving, you're losing is what he says. And the reason why is because of inflation. So what I started doing is and maybe there's some people that would freak out by this, but it works for me. So I would put my money in an ETF.
Yeah.
I would put my money, I just got on Vanguard and got an account, not a tax deferred plan, not a SEP IRA, 401k, nothing. It's something that I wanted to have access to this money.
And you could take in and out.
I could
so
take
there's
in and
no
out.
IRA, there's no retirement age involved.
Correct. So there's no penalties, right?
Yeah.
There's taxes. So when you take it out, you're selling your stock and you're taking it out. And you need to know that you're going to you're owe taxes, income taxes on that.
So I'm sorry, the definition is, or what it stands for is exchange traded funds. So
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it stands for. Okay.
Yeah. So what I understand, and I might get some of this wrong, and it doesn't really, you don't need to know this, but an ETF is a computer program versus what a mutual fund is like a bunch of people in a room making decisions. And so, as you know, with a bunch of people in a room, you got to pay their salary. So they're going to take a percentage, a small percentage. So I think that's the difference. So an ETF, like the S&P 500, the 500, I don't know, healthiest companies, I'll just say that, I may be wrong, but the best companies right now in the United States, there's some sort of computer program that takes whatever money you put into that ETF and divides it percentage-wise the way it sees fit to get a return, right? And so I just put it in the S&P 500 and forget about it, mainly because I don't care. Honestly, I dabbled in day trading and stocks just to see if I would enjoy it, and I didn't enjoy it. And so I'm not saying that you can't make a ton of money doing that. If that's for you, go for it. I can't teach you that. I want to put it in a place that's going to beat inflation so that later on I can use it to invest in real estate or business. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And
so you're letting it build up, accrue interest, even some dividends, and just letting it sit there until you're ready to use it for down payment on
just
something.
keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So if on this side is your monthly nut, my job is paying that. Let that do its thing. That little bit of extra goes over here into this ETF, and it's growing. Right?
Engine.
It's an engine, right? And you don't touch it. Yeah. That's important. That's the discipline. Don't touch it. It does not exist. Then it's going to, on average, I think over the last 50 years, the S&P 500, you can, Google it. It's like 10% or 11%, something like that. Well, if you know anything about stocks, it's not going to be 10% every year. It's going to be 15% this year and 3% the next year, negative 10% this year and positive 20. It's going to be all over the place each and every year, right? So you got to know that that's the case. So when it gets negative 20, don't freak out. It's going to come back. It always has. And in the way I've lodged it, if it doesn't come back, we're probably hiding in caves somewhere because Al Qaeda has come after us, right? So I don't worry about it. And I set it and I forget it and let it go. And it gives me my 10% return. And it's a little bit higher now, but it'll be a little bit lower later. And it grows. And then I keep contributing to it until it gets to a point when I can afford a piece of commercial real estate. And so the trick with Robert Kiyosaki's philosophy, which makes so much sense to me, cash flowing assets.
Yeah.
That's what you're after. You're not after assets. You're after cash flowing assets. And he redefines assets. And I say redefine because your banker will define an asset differently than Robert Kiyosaki. He defines an asset as something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So if I buy a commercial real estate or residential real estate and it's not cash flowing and I'm having to pay that mortgage, he considers that a liability. Technically, it's not because it's appreciating and all that. It is an asset. It's not.
You want a good deal, basically.
Yeah, you want cash flow.
Yeah.
That's what you're after, right? And so I will take less. I will if I look at a deal. When you're starting off, cash flow is very important. As you get more cash flow, you can take some deals and take some risks that you couldn't when you don't have a lot. So at the beginning, do not make that mistake of seeing a really good deal, and it is a good deal, but it's not cash flowing. Now you made yourself poor because you're paying a mortgage or you're paying something. Right. Like you can do that later. You can't do that at the beginning. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake. You know, somebody said this. You can have a high net worth and go bankrupt. You can't go bankrupt if you have high cash flow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not 100% true. There's probably some ways you can go bankrupt. But if you've got cash flow, you're going to be able to pay your bills. Right. If you have a high net worth and you don't have cash flow, you could hit a point where you can't pay your bills and now you lose everything, right? Yeah. So people put
for an example would be like a commercial property, maybe just like a duplex or something, 2 office spaces that already have tenants. It's been cash flowing. Yes. So that's a good 100%. A good location. And it's like, okay, it might be a little bit more than this, this cheaper deal over here, but it's got cash flow. It's already got cash flow.
Yep. Okay. So the these rules of thumb may have shifted with the new market. But our rule of thumb, and it's not ours, it's somebody came up with it, you can Google it, is 1% of the value of the property. If it's $300,000, you want $3,000 a month. Yeah. That roughly. So if I see an opportunity and it's $300,000 and I got $3,000 a month, then in general I can say that's worth looking at. That's worth digging into. Okay. The math will probably math in that case, because in real estate, there are tons of podcasts and videos and all that, and I don't know the names of them, but you can Google them. They're all over the place. That'll teach you how to think about real estate better than me. But you just want to make sure that you account for all your taxes. You want to account for all your insurance. You want to account for, even account for vacancies. Yeah. What I have found in our area in real estate is very hyper local, and our area is a growing area. So vacancy's not been a problem. If you're in Detroit, maybe vacancy is a problem. So be careful in that. But in our area right now, I'm not worried about vacancy. I haven't been for a while. But you gotta account for it. And so we would buy a property that had a tenant that had that 1% rule. And then now, let's just say it was $500 a month. Now the money I'm contributing into it, now that money's going into it. Yeah. Right? Right. And now it's growing. This is not my personal income. This is separate. My job is paying my personal income. This starts growing faster now. Then I buy another one. Now there's more cash flow. It starts growing faster. Now I buy another one. More cash flow. It's not impacting my wife and my kids at all. So even if, as it starts growing, you start putting accounts aside with cash that can that, for air conditioning that might break or whatever. You're accounting for that, and that money's sitting over there and can be used for those purposes, not going to affect
not personally. Yeah.
Right.
So if you've got a property and there's a $10,000 expense unexpected with HVAC going out, you're not stressing out over here.
Right.
And the wife, in my case, I don't even talk to her about it.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even know. Doesn't
Yeah.
even need to worry about it. My life and our situation is an open book. She can, at any point in time, she wants to know what's going on over here, she can ask.
Yeah.
Right. And she can, and I'll be, but I don't want to know. I trust you.
Yeah.
I would rather not deal with the stress. Right.
Yeah.
So then eventually there's enough money there that now we can go and get a business. Right.
Well, I just remember when we started out, it's like, well, you got to get this much here, emergency fund here, and build that up. And then once you hit a certain number, now you can start looking to what you want to invest in.
Yep.
And I can remember, calling you, and just like, all right. And it's like, hey, it's time. Figure out what you want to do, and let's do it. But it was like, we were kind of like,
Yep.
But it really helps separating the two. Like,
Yeah.
no, we have our jobs, we've got our
Yeah.
income. It's not taking away from that. So
Yeah.
this is like, and you used to call them engines. So you have this engine,
Yep.
you have this one, and that one facilitates the next one. So
Yeah, and so each of these components, there's an education there. So
Yeah.
let me tell you how I think about the three different types of investing. So there are more than three, but these are my three main that I feel comfortable with. So ETF, S&P 500. That's all I say.
Yeah.
What about this? What about that stock? Go for it. Go find out. I'm not that guy. I tried that. I didn't like it.
Right.
So I just, Warren Buffett, he's smart enough for me. I'll just put it there in part. Could I do better somewhere else? Sure.
yeah,
Whatever. I don't care. It's beating inflation. That's my goal. So for me, when I evaluate investment opportunities, 10% is my floor.
okay,
So if I go buy a piece of real estate and I'm not beating 10%, why am I?
yeah,
I just
That's a
put it
lot of
there.
effort for-
yeah.
yeah.
There's no effort
Yeah.
in this. So I better be getting 20% in real estate
okay,
to make it worth it, right? So when I I've got this money built up in the ETF and it's sitting there doing its thing. Now I got to take it out to go do this, or you can borrow against it. Whole different conversation, different ways of doing that, and different tax advantages. But now I've got this money building up to go over here, right, and buy this piece of real estate. So you got to evaluate it. Well, there's a whole education on learning how to do that. Here's my tips on that. Most people are like, how do you know? I've never done it before. Well, how do you do anything you've never done before? If you've never played the piano before, you're not going to go out and do Mozart. You got to go ding, ding, ding. You got to learn.
yeah,
It's going to be a process. So in real estate, you're not going to go out and buy Mozart. Don't do that, right? Meaning if I save up, I don't know, $50,000 for a down payment to buy a piece of real estate, don't spend all 50 on your very first one. Spend 20
yeah,
Right.
on a down payment. Well, then you're going to say, well, there's nothing out there like that. Well, sure. The lower the amount, the harder it is to find it, but keep building it up until don't put everything in on your first one, right? So do little base hits. That's
Yeah.
another thing that we started that I learned from my business partner. Let's not swing for the fence. Let's just get base hits.
Yeah.
If it's $100 a month, another thing I learned, an investor told me, Joe, when you realize $100 a month is worth more than $100 an hour, you're on the right track. And it
great.
took me a while to figure out what in the world that meant, because that doesn't sound right. What he meant by that was $100 a month that doesn't cost you any time
yeah,
is worth way more than $100 that you got to earn by putting an hour of your time in.
yeah,
Because you can't scale that infinite. You can scale $100 a month. It doesn't cost you time infinite, right? So in real estate, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it doesn't cost you time unless you pay somebody to do it. But it costs you less time than your full-time job, right?
Yeah.
So you start looking for these opportunities. And as you see, as your money expands, it gives you more to see. So real estate, 20, 30% maybe, 20% return. Businesses, I'm expecting much more than that. It's way riskier.
Yeah.
You got to have way more skill to buy a business, to evaluate a business, and you've got to have way more skill to keep it going. Right? If you've never run a business before, I do not recommend you buy an investment business.
Yeah.
You can buy a business that you're going to run and operate, but even that, I would be very conservative. And if you've never run a business before, buy something simple. Don't start an IT company like I did. Just buy something simple that you can cut your teeth on, that doesn't risk the farm. As you learn how to run that business, then you kind of slowly upgrade. That'd be my recommendation. But again, you go into the business world, you're going to add some stress that you may not like. You try it out, you don't like it, go back into real estate. You can do fine with real estate and ETFs, right? And so that's kind of the three areas. You're going to make more bang for your buck with businesses, but you're going to have more risk. You're going to have more headaches. You're going to need more skill. Real estate, you need some skill. There's going to be some effort. ETF, you don't need much of anything.
Yeah.
Right.
You can become wealthy just on that,
Right.
but you're only going to have a 10% return. You don't need a lot of knowledge to do it, and you don't need a lot of time and energy to do it. It takes a little bit longer to get there, right? Now, I said don't do a 401k, a SEP IRA, and all that kind of stuff. I do those things. I am not saying don't take advantage of those things, but the downfall of those things is those are not cash flowing in the sense that you don't have access to it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to have access to it when you're 65, right?
Yeah.
So one of the gripes that I have with Dave Ramsey, and if this goes viral and I get to sit down and talk to him about this, man, that would be awesome. This is what I would love.
You heard that.
Yeah.
This needs to go viral.
I would love to sit down and have a humble conversation with him and say, I don't understand these things.
Yeah.
Help me understand these things. One of the things I don't like about Dave is he's hard-headed, it seems. Like he's not willing to have, like there's some people that have called in and have legitimate questions, and he just kind of cuts them off in his brute force. So that's him. That's fine. I still listen to him. I still like him. But one of the things that I push back, he has this saying that, and I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Now, I could be wrong. And if he sat down and showed me, I would be, okay, all right, I buy it. He says he has the biggest, whenever his trump card to any question about how he does things, he says he has the biggest study of millionaires ever done. And I think it's like 10,000 millionaires. Well, I did some math of how many millionaires there are in the United States. 10,000 is like 0.0001%. So if I have 100 people who are successful, and I ask one person, how did you become successful? Mm-hmm. I'm really not getting a good picture.
Yeah.
But what if I ask 0.00, like I don't remember what the zeros are. I did the math way, but I'm like, that doesn't. And then the question is, who are these millionaires? There are plenty of millionaires in this country that have become millionaires because of 401ks and SEP IRAs. Well, you know how old they are?
Yeah, I was about to say what's the age?
They're in their
age range?
60s.
There's a lot of 30-year-old millionaires.
I don't want to be a 60-year-old millionaire. I want to be a 50-year-old, 40-year-old. I want to do it faster. I want to live my life. Yeah. Like he has that saying, live like no one else so you can live like, later on you can live like nowhere else. I do believe in that, but I don't want to be 80.
Yeah.
Like I want to still have my health. I want to still have my passion and energy. I want to contribute to society when I can. I don't want to be retiring when I can't walk and I got a bad back and I won't be able to walk, right? So I think there's a factor there to push back with him. And if he's humble enough to come to that conversation, maybe he could find out, like I asked my AI bot, is there a better way to do this?
Yeah.
Maybe he could find out, believe it or not, there might be. And what you're contributing is valuable, but is there a better way, right? And so my way and what I love to help people, what I have a passion for, and Robert Kiyosaki didn't coin this phrase, but the rat race.
Well, yeah, that was my next question. Is that what you mean by the rat race?
So rat race, I think, is a spiritual battle. And it hurts my heart to see how many good, faithful, loving people have been neutralized by the enemy because of the rat race. They have no energy. They can't even be a good husband or wife because they're so exhausted when they come home at night.
Right.
And they feel like they're not getting ahead. They're working their tails off and they can't. They're making, paying paycheck to paycheck, right? And it's a tragedy. And I think it's a spiritual battle. I think the enemy that we face is smarter than we give him credit for. And he's thought about all the different ways to neutralize us and distract us from what really matters. And to me, because I am a spiritual guy that I follow Christ, I want to help free people from the rat race. And they may not necessarily be multimillionaires. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you live your lifestyle. For what reason what am I after? Well, as an investor, I want a return. And so if I can invest myself in Antonio and Mandy, and I trust that they have something beautiful inside of them that they can bring to the world, the Lord knows we need more light in this world. There's enough darkness. But if I can free you guys up and there's a gift that you can't use because you're so wrapped up in the rat race, if I can help eliminate that, and now you're free to go do what it is that you are meant to do, there's my return, right? My world, the world that I live in, gets better by you doing what it is that you're supposed to do. And so one of the things that I feel like God's called me to is to help other people realize their gift by helping them get out of this financial trap that Satan has laid for us. And it is a prison for a lot of people. And I was there. I've been there. I know what it feels like. It's not a good place to be. And there is a way out.
And people don't know that there's a different way. That's the amazing thing. It's just, we're never taught this. We're never
taught this.
Yeah. We don't see it implemented maybe. And so,
So I used to say that our education system is built to create worker bees.
Yeah.
And I think there's some truth to that. But I'm going to go a little bit more sinister than that. I think our education system is built to create the rat race. If you think that the enemy is real, and if you think about the different ways that he tries to trip us up, what better way than to create a system that you step right out of high school or college right into the rat race, and you think this is just the way it is for the rest of your life.
Right.
Seen my parents do this. This is just it. This is life.
Yeah.
And you're miserable, and you don't have any money to be benevolent.
Right.
You don't have any time to do anything extra to serve or do something good.
And if the price of eggs or the price of gas goes up a tiny bit, you're devastated.
You're devastated.
I mean, you hear people on the radio like the gas. I'm like, it's just a few more cents a gallon. I mean, it's not devastating, but it is to people.
Yep.
That's how tight things are.
And even more than that, distract the people who are experiencing the rat race and blame it on the rich people or the government or Iran or whoever. I don't care. Insert whatever distraction we have instead of focusing on what really matters, right? So one of my favorite authors, this guy really impacted my life in a big way, Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's probably the first non-Bible book that I read that just blew me away. And one of the things that he talks about in that book that I just adhere to, and I think is so powerful, he talks about the spheres, these circles that are inside of each other, right? So this big circle are the things that you don't have any control over. The next circle are the things that you have influence over. And then the last circle is the stuff you have control over. And what you find out, if you understand the relationship with these things, the things that you don't have control over, it's going to rain tomorrow. Well, you want to be aware of that so you dress appropriately and all that, but you can't control it. There's going to be a hurricane tomorrow. You want to be aware of that so that you can make the right provisions and changes to where you are or whatever, but you can't stop it, right? Yeah. And so you think about those things and you're aware of them, but you don't spend all your energy complaining about the hurricane that's coming.
Right.
There's a hurricane coming. I've made all my moves. Now I'm going to focus on the things that I can control first and the things that I can influence second, right? So what can I control? Well, I just raised my hand. I control this guy.
Yeah.
And truth be told, that's all I control, right?
Yeah.
So the phrases, these famous phrases, it's not what happens to you that matters, it's how you respond that matters. And so determining who you're going to be and how you show up is the most important thing. So while you've got all this stuff happening in Iran, The least successful people that I know are focused on that.
Right.
They think about it, talk about it. They're scared of it. They're arguing over it. They're bickering and they're complaining and all that kind of stuff. And while all those people are doing that, the successful people are focused on the things that matter.
Yeah.
What matters? Getting out of the rat race.
Yeah.
And allowing me to now become a person that I can bring light into the world. I can bring goodness into the world. I can't stop the bombs. Maybe I can vote. Well, that's all I can do, but I can't stop that from happening. I can't stop people who are going to try to attack our country and kill us and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of that, but if you're spending all your time thinking and focused on that, you're wasting all of that energy on things that you can't control. Stephen Covey's, this is what he talks about. Focus on the things that you can control. You know what I can control? Instead of spending extra money on guac, put it in the S&P 500, let that grow, and invest in a cash flowing asset, let that grow. All of a sudden, I don't need to work as many hours.
Right.
Now I can get enough rest. Now I can be a loving husband. One of the things I did several years ago, I started cooking dinner. I do all the cooking. My wife doesn't cook anymore. I couldn't do that when I was overwhelmed with my business.
Yeah.
I had to get to a place where I could have the energy and the time and the forethought to be able to do that. Now I can love her and serve her. Now she reciprocates in different ways for me. Now we take it outside of our marriage to other people's lives. It's just a domino effect. And in my little world, and what I believe and what Stephen Covey teaches is if you do that, eventually you'll have influence over things you have no control over. Eventually, if enough people are doing that, the bombs start being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do it by getting on the news and arguing all the crap that never works.
Yeah.
It never works.
Yeah.
Do it by being the person that God has called us to be.
Yeah.
Now I just preached a sermon.
Yeah. Your brain can only focus on so much at one time. If you're focused on Iran, then you
Yeah.
just missed everything right in front of you. That's
Yeah.
what I learned in 2020. Is like, forget it. I'm not going there again.
Yeah.
That was way too much
Yeah.
brain power.
Yeah. Well, I just remember, I don't forgot exactly what the crisis or what was going on, but watching you do that, it's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think
know.
it was after 2020, and I think we said something. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Okay, now let's focus on.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, I can't focus on that. I got to focus on this, and it was just like this tunnel vision of, hey, this is what I can control.
And the weird thing about it, and there's all kinds of nuances. It's an interesting conversation. The weird thing about it is people perceive you don't care.
Yeah.
And for a while there, I would succumb to that. Like, don't you care that people are being hurt? Oh, I guess I should join in all that mess because if that's what people do who care. No, I don't buy that anymore.
Yep.
I used to get sucked into that because I felt guilty. You know what? I care enough to go help a young man who was
Yes.
shot
The
8
person
times.
right in front of you.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's so funny to me. There are people who misperceive me out in the world, who think because I am a business owner and have wealth and all that, that I'm a certain person, a caricature that they've learned on the news or whatever. And they have conversations. I've had conversations where they, criticize what they think I think, right? And when they find out that, it's funny because what I've learned in the political world, typically what drives somebody who has a left-leaning point of view is they have a big heart. They love people. They really love people. And what drives somebody who has a right-leaning point of view is responsibility and this high sense of, taking responsibility for who you are. And
That's a great way to look at it.
and we've divided those two things as if they can't coexist.
Yeah.
Right. But it can coexist. And so somebody who comes to me from a left-leaning perspective, thinking that I'm a right-leaning person, is expecting me to respond heartless. And then all of a sudden they find out these stories of how I've loved people in ways that challenge them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden their mind, they're broken. They're like, wait, what? Like, how? This doesn't compute. Mm-hmm. And then when I invite them to join in with me to love people, they're like, man, this guy's, I don't know I don't know what box to put this guy in. Are you a Republican or a Democrat? I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I'm neither.
Yeah.
I refuse to be
Yes.
Yeah.
one or the other. You're not going to put me in a box.
Yeah.
And you know who that sounds like? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You could not put him in a box.
Right.
They tried.
He would, yeah.
They tried.
Give to Caesar what Caesar.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I mean, I hear you saying that, but then we had a God moment just like that. Well,
We've had several. I'm not sure which one you mean.
Well, it was like one person that was accusing you to be this way.
Oh, right.
And then here it is. No, this is my friend and we have this relationship.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wait a minute. And I mean, the timing of it was like, wow.
Yeah. So I'll share that story. If I think we're talking about the same one.
Yeah.
I had, during the COVID, and I think it was the George Floyd, a lot of the racial tension was happening big time. Not that it's not happening now. So I had a person tell my son that I was racist and that I can't help it because I'm who I am. And that same person told my wife that she needed to leave me because I'm racist. And they had painted me in this box that they don't know who I am, right? And I was furious that somebody would say those things and not know who I am. And I was ready
Take
to
it a step further and tell your wife to leave you.
she literally told my wife that. And my wife's like, I kind of like him. I don't want to leave him, thankfully.
But then even with your son, it's like trying to paint this, this picture.
Yeah, and I'm the kind of person when I call it in my Jonas. When I'm in my Christness, people like me. When I'm in my Jonas, watch out. Like I can do some harmful things. I wanted to take out my sword and lop off some heads, right? I was ready to go to war. And it just so happened at that time, Antonio, I think you called me or something.
Yeah.
And
I think that's in a text.
Yeah, something. Yeah, maybe it was a text or a
Yeah.
conversation, but it was perfect timing. I was questioning myself.
Yeah. Everybody did that time. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I'm married to him, but am I racist?
So I told Antonio what happened, and it actually got me emotional when he said it in such a loving way. He's like, Joe, there's no truth in this. I know you. We're friends. You are not that way. And I believed then, and I believe now that was not Antonio speaking. I believe that, Jesus says my sheep recognize my voice. I heard Jesus' voice in Antonio's words. And what Jesus was saying, no.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the accuser.
Yeah.
That voice is not of me. And he used Antonio to be that mouthpiece for me. And I needed to hear that right at that moment because I was waffling. At least in that moment I was. So, yeah.
And what it was like all these accusations and you're battling, and then I just randomly send you this text.
Yes.
This long
Yeah.
text.
Yes, that's what it was.
You're such a good friend. I
And
love
yes.
you.
Yeah, and I send you this long
Yes.
text and going into detail, and then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's like we had that God moment.
Yeah, it's like the accuser comes in and says, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You know that, right? All the stuff that God's talking that you're going to achieve, setting people free and helping people live their life. No, you can't do that. You're in. So you start to believe it. Mm-hmm. Like that voice gets in our heads and we start to believe it. And I remember one time going to the botanical gardens.
I was going to say, did you go talk to God about it? Yeah.
That's what
I do.
That's what
you heard what they said.
You got to go talk to them.
Tell me what you think.
Yeah. So I was feeling that inadequacy, right? And so I felt it, and I was really discouraged by it. And so I went out to the botanical gardens. God makes me laugh. And so I'm walking on this trail, and I'm like, God, I feel like it's too big. The world's too broken. It's just overwhelming. There's so much pain. When you follow Jesus, you're going to find out how much pain there is, and it's hard. And it's even worse than what you see on the news, right? And I'm like, God, the word that comes to mind is I just feel so inadequate to the task that you've given me. And then I shut up and I listen. That's one thing I would recommend anybody who's a praying person. If you feel like he's not answering, it's probably because you're leaving too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing all the talking and then you leave, and
Yep.
God's like, you didn't want to answer?
Yep.
Shut up and listen.
Yep.
And so I shut up and I listen. The way that happens practically for me is I just walk.
Mm-hmm.
I just lay it out there and I just walk. And if he answers, he answers. If he not, he not. He answered this time. And he goes, well, the reason why you feel inadequate is because you are.
Yep.
That was not what I was expecting. I was expecting, oh, you're great. You're awesome. I love you, son. No, you're inadequate. Let's go ahead and accept that.
Yeah.
But that's, you become adequate because I'm with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're without me, you feel that inadequacy. When I'm with you, you don't feel it because I fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
You bring a lot to the table, but I bring the rest, right? And in that moment, in that prayer, it just felt, oh, that feels so good. To just accept, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm inadequate. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to do it without him, but in the same token, he doesn't want to do it without us.
Right.
Because then we're self-righteous.
Yes.
Like, oh, I do have this all down. And then, oh, nope, no, you don't. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I asked him one time, I'm like, hey, if you can do all this stuff, if you can fix all this stuff, what's my role?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why don't you just fix it all? And it was like, after a while of just being quiet, it's like this answer came back. It's not that I can't fix it all. I can. I don't need you. I don't need you, Joe. I want you.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this without you. I want to do this with you, with us.
Yeah.
God could heal the world. He's got the ability, but he wants us to be in it with him.
Yep.
It's all, go read the Bible. That is what Jesus was trying to teach them. I'm not here to do all these miracles. I'm here to show you how to do them.
Yeah.
I'm here to show you how to bring healing in the world. I'm here to show you, and we just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
He's still waiting for us to do it with him, right? And I'm not saying he's not working. He is. But the more people that come awake to that reality, he takes who you are and he multiplies it and makes it better, right? And so if what my job is, partially at least, is to sit down with folks and help them think through their life and how to escape the rat race and get to a place where they have margin to go love the world and love people, then that's my role. And I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all the help you've given us.
Yes. Well,
We're still just kind of getting into it, but we've learned a lot, so we have all head knowledge.
The whole mindset, just changing the mindset and being enlightened. Like where we were and where we are now, far as from business and even in our personal, it's just like, hey, do these right here, get this done. And then the next step, far as invest in something. And then it's just like you build that. And so just, all the years, of just, advice or, just things that you said, it really helped us to where we can go out and help other people. Like last year we went to Africa, but a lot of things that you helped us with and put into place, we could do that. And now, in a couple of weeks we're going to Jamaica, and on another medical mission team. And it's just like we're able to put these things in practice because of, like a lot of the advice and, money principles that you've given us.
Yeah.
Now we're able to go out and help others and reinvest,
So, I do appreciate all your kind words. Even before we started this, you guys I'm just encouraged. I really am. And I appreciate that. Let me respond to it. And I mean this in a non-emotional way. I'm going to use a football analogy.
Come on.
If you know me, I use probably too many of those. You got a team, right? And typically the quarterback is the one that gets all the blame or all the glory. And then probably second to that, maybe the running back or the wide receivers. And very rarely do the offensive linemen or the defensive linemen or those guys get as much attention, right? But they're every bit as important on the team. And so I think when you think about the body of Christ, and all of our different gifts and talents, for whatever reason, the gift that I've been blessed with is a gift of communication. I can tell stories, and I can lead people, and I can be that sort of quarterback role, and in that I get a lot of praise, and people tell me how good I am and how you know, and I get a lot of encouragement a lot of times, and I have people that want to listen to me. But here's the danger, and this is important because I think this is where, you know, if you are a spiritual leader of a church or a small group of any kind, this is the danger we all have to watch out for when we're that mouthpiece. In Daniel 4, it talks about this big, beautiful tree, and that tree was Nebuchadnezzar. And it talks about good things about that tree. It's really surprising. I never really realized that the Bible had painted Nebuchadnezzar in a positive light like they do in that tree. But in that vision of the tree, it's just so big you can't see the top. It's so wide, and God cuts it down. And if you read it, it's like, man, that doesn't make sense. It's such a great tree. Why would you cut it down? And I think the warning to people like us is that humans naturally like to hold up and bow down to what they can see. They like to worship the physical stuff. And even if you're not a religious person, you can recognize that. Just look at celebrities. Why are we so easily enamored by somebody who can sing or somebody who can act or somebody who can play football? We are made in our nature to bow down to those things. And I think it can happen in religion too. And I think that it's hurt the church when, in a good way, somebody who's talented and gifted, particularly who's out front, uses their gift. And when you are full of the Spirit and he amplifies that gift and people see that, they're naturally going to be enamored with that person and go, wow, that person's awesome. Yeah. And just name the person that you know. I've got 15 or 20 names of people that have made such an impact and are world known. And in some ways, the warning is don't become that beautiful tree that's what people see, because the tree that's bigger and greater is the tree of God, a tree of life that can do even better things than what a human can do on his own. And so I think, practically speaking, for me, what my desire is, what my wish is I want to use my gift. And with that, people are going to see the success that I've been able to accumulate in life and God has blessed me with, and people are going to admire that. That's who people are. But I want them to see through me. I want to be invisible, and I want them to see God in me. I want them to know that anything good that comes out of me, anything that you like, any words that I've said now or any other time, they're not Joe's words. I'm not good enough to come up with that stuff. The stuff that I come up with are probably the few things that you said, I don't know about that guy. Like that didn't sit right with me. And if you're around me long enough, you'll hear a lot of that. That's the Joe part. And I'm not saying that I don't have something to bring that God doesn't honor. But me and God together, we make a pretty good team. Me without God, you don't want to hear what I have to say. You really don't. Right. And so what my desire is if anything I've said today means something to somebody, that they see Christ behind those words. And if anything I do impacts somebody's life, they see Christ in those actions. And it's not a false humility. It's a reality that I think that's what's going to save this world, is in each other. We can see Christ and recognize that. And then when we don't see it, we can forgive that and give grace to it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's in my head. Yes. I don't know how to articulate it, but I think God is calling me to a calling that is going to risk pumping my ego up. Mm. And I got one just like anybody else. And it feels good to be worshiped. It really does. But I also know the dangers of that. And I think Peter struggled with this. I think Paul struggled with this. He tried to remind the people, guys, who am I? Why are you following me? Stop it. Yeah. And the people still worshiped him.
I heard a good sermon similar to that don't just run to God in the hard times, but as soon as you get that accolade, run to him. Yeah. And you just go straight back to
Yeah.
him. Okay, God, you heard everything, but you get all the glory and you hide. You know, so like someone giving a great speech and then they run off the stage and they go hide because they don't want the accolade. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, I think it's good for the receiver also to check themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's just as wrong to not recognize God in someone else, right? So if you walk up to an apple tree and there's all these apples and they're beautiful apples, and you walk up to the branch and you say, "Hey, how did you make these apples? Man, these are awesome." The branch is going to say, "I don't know. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I just held them." The trunk is what gave me what I needed to make the apples. So you go up to the trunk and you say, "How'd you do this?" Well, there's a complicated answer. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, right? We are just the branches. I am just a branch.
Yeah.
Jesus is the vine. Any fruit that's come from me that people look and admire, and they're like, "Man, that's a beautiful fruit. How'd you do that?" I don't know.
I walks in the botanical
That's
garden.
right. Right.
Yes.
Right. I will say this. There is a strong correlation from when I started making the habit of going on probably 3 to 4 times a week. I'm out at the botanical gardens. I'm on the trails. If you correlate that to how many
Yes.
crazy stories I have, it lines up.
Yep.
Like that. Like I haven't even scratched the surface, and you know some of my crazy stories of some of the things and celebrities that I've been a part of and all that kind of stuff, right? There is a correlation between how much time I've committed to spending time with God and the fruit that's shown in my life.
Yeah.
And then the great thing is it just becomes, it's not even a discipline anymore. It's like, I cannot wait to get out and
Yeah.
on my walk. Like, oh no, it's raining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. It becomes
And that's evidence of him drawing us
Yeah.
to him.
There have been times where I've had a busy schedule and I have 2 or 3 appointments cancel, and I've got a big chunk of time, and I rush
Yes,
home and
yeah.
change my clothes. I'm out at the botanical gardens.
Yeah.
Like I love that I get so much from that time, and my desire is for other people to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Any closing words?
Well, just as you were saying all that, the thing that kept coming to my mind, when I'm weak, then I'm strong. But when I'm strong, that's when I'm at my weakest. But when we feel the opposite, but it's like God is saying, no, when you're weak, then that's when I'm the strongest in your life. And we always view it totally different.
That's right.
And so it's just like, just God's grace, like when you're talking about being inaccurate, it's like God's grace makes up the difference where we're lacking, and just thinking about like, God is so wonderful. And then he brings all of our strengths together, and then accomplish what he wants to accomplish, so it's I don't know, just that's a whole nother, but God is so good.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This has been great.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
Hopefully this won't be the last. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, we'll get a whiteboard next time and you can.
Yeah, I love whiteboards. You know me. I like to talk.
Well, thank you again for watching. And again, please like and subscribe to our channel.